Coming to you from 6,224 feet in Castle Rock, Colorado.
This is Inside Castle Rock.
I'm Chris Tuchillo, hospitality trainer, leadership and presentation coach, and a local resident the past 2 years.
I'm Brian Cowdery, a professional real estate agent, and I've lived in town for over a decade.
Check out our latest episode as we welcome you inside Castle Rock.
Hey, welcome to episode 4 of Inside Castle Rock. We're super excited. We're here in the Craft Co-working space again. That's where we started with our first episode.
Co-working space, though.
Yeah, exactly. And we are super excited to be here. We've got coffee from Lost Coffee today. I've got a plain vanilla latte,
David,
which is delicious.
Finish yours. You crushed it already.
You already finished.
Johnny,
Oh my goodness. Well, that just is a good introduction for our first guest on episode 4.
Our first guest on episode 4.
And our only guest on episode 4. Dave Forney, we're very excited to have you joining us.
Wait. Nobody's excited for the tax guy.
Well,
let's be honest here.
No, but we're excited for you. We'll talk about the taxes later, right?
And I think we're excited because we've been spending time with Dave for 2 years at the
Yes.
Connecting Over Coffee group. So this is one of those conversations where, like, it's sitting down with a friend.
100%.
It's sitting down with a
I
friend.
was literally thinking when I was getting ready this morning that I remember when you were a baby business.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we were like,
Yeah.
we were just meeting at, our Connecting Over Coffee on every other Thursday. And I remember, I think it was probably the first, you just started.
Yeah. So
Right.
as soon as I pretty much quit my job, my full-time job,
Yeah.
I instantly started going to the Connecting Over Coffee.
Yeah. And I think that's probably about the same time I started also.
Yeah.
So it's just, I was just thinking how cool it is to see how much you've grown, from when you started and you just had this idea. And then, I mean, it's just exploded this whole time.
So many things come from different places, humble
Right.
beginnings.
Mhm.
And I remember going to my first Connecting Over Coffee meeting there.
Mm-hmm.
You must have been at one of your first meetings that were there because you and I were both kind of doe-eyed,
Sure.
didn't know a lot of people.
Yeah.
I was like, man, that guy's got a great rap on his car. Like, how cool to advertise what he's doing, especially in the line of work that he's in. People don't associate tax with anything fun and exciting. It's like pocket protectors.
Right.
And like, I'm supposed to give him a bunch of documents. I don't know what
And
they're
going in like a cube inside
Exactly.
a Walmart. Places
Oh,
like
my
that.
gosh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
We're going to building. It's only open like 2 months a year.
correct.
Yeah.
That and like Spirit of Halloween.
Right.
Exactly.
Right. Yeah. Share the spirit of Halloween.
Correct.
Yeah.
That would be a great co-working meeting. Anyway, let's
That
go
would
on.
be.
Before we get, I think, too far into the
Yeah.
mobile tax
Yeah,
space, I just wanted to, because obviously we've chatted many times before,
Yes.
the three of us have. Wanted to get to know you and a little bit of your story. So kind of your background, where you're from, what brought you here, a little bit about your background, your family.
Okay. How far back are we going on this?
I figured like,
Here.
3 years old, what was your favorite binky?
I was going to say the day you were
Fair
born,
enough.
but
Fair enough.
Okay. Yeah.
So born in Bakersfield, California. And
Family out there.
oh yeah, they should get out
Podcast
as
is
soon
about
as
you, Brian.
possible.
It's
No,
about
that's
you.
my dad. Sorry. I know, but we have a connection here, Chris.
We have a
That-
connection.
We're having
Yeah.
a special moment. Yeah. Anyway, Bakersfield, California.
Yeah, and my mom was in real estate, and she moved out to Colorado Springs.
Uh-huh.
Brought us with her.
Okay.
And
Okay. Which part of the Springs? From
Yes,
Colorado
it's important.
Springs.
so near Doherty, we went to Doherty
Oh,
High
yeah.
School.
Okay.
So we were
Cool.
in Old Farm.
I think we
area,
talked about this at one
northern
point.
part.
I've
Yeah.
forgotten. All right.
Yeah. So I lived down there, and kind of that's where I really grew up.
Mhm.
And got in a lot of trouble. My
Mhm.
mom was pretty absent, as far as taking care of kids. And
Okay.
it was me and my 3 brothers. And it's kind of like a wild wolf pack, man.
Really?
So, we got into a little bit of trouble. And I
But that's
say,
back when you could go get in trouble on it. You
yeah.
didn't really get in trouble. Yeah.
Right. Well, no,
It wasn't social
I
media,
did.
and there wasn't
Right.
surveillance
The
cameras.
cameras everywhere.
Yeah,
Right.
And you can feel free to edit this part out, but I ended up getting Fresh Prince of Bel-Air out of Colorado Springs. I had to come up here and live with my dad.
Oh, you did?
Yeah. So
Oh,
Edit it out. That's going to be the highlight reel.
That's right. Do you know about the Springs? Do you know the area very well?
I don't.
He was also on the side of town where there was a lot of that going on.
Okay.
yeah, it was
Yeah.
just, not without any guidance,
Right.
without any mentors, without any people to kind of lead you in the right direction. You just fall into whatever the area
Your
is
environment.
providing for you, right?
Totally.
And
Yeah.
so came up
Product of your
here.
environment.
Yeah,
Productive environment.
yeah, I agree with that, and that's why I like surrounding myself with the people at Connecting Over Coffee. You know, I
Totally.
don't necessarily work with all of them. I'm also in BNI, you
Mhm.
know, because I like now very much surrounding myself with those people that are, you know, interested in success and interested in growth.
Yeah.
And so when I moved here, I started working at the outlet mall. That's where I met my wife,
Okay.
my now wife.
No, no way.
And man, I used to ride my bike from the Pines Apartments to the outlet mall to
Did
go to
you
work.
really? Wow.
Now
Okay,
you
how
can't
old
do
were you
that.
then?
I was 18.
18? Okay.
Yeah, I moved out
Gotcha.
of my dad's house. I was only living with my dad for about a year or
Okay.
so, and then moved out and got my own apartment with my wife.
Gotcha.
So, yeah, and then you know, just really started. I went to college at that time, and which is funny because I never completed my freshman year of high school. I ended up getting my GED.
Oh, really?
And
Okay.
so then I go to college and I start studying accounting. I'm like, oh, this isn't so
This is
bad,
actually
you
kind of
know?
neat.
And it's interesting how, you know, when you're studying for something that you're actually interested in, what
Right.
you can do, opposed to, you know, going to like a high school where it's general information
Right.
and, you know, how much of this am I really going to apply throughout my life, you know? So
It's the difference between being like forced to do it as to wanting to do it.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it made a huge difference.
Totally.
It
So,
speaks to the fact that most people coming out of high school at 18 can't, or not a capacity to make the decision. I wasn't, of what I was going to do for the rest of my life.
yeah.
What I do now,
100%.
what you do now,
Oh,
that
yeah.
wasn't what we were doing back then. So I think getting an education that can serve you in a lot of different ways. But when you find something like accounting, like I found out in business school at A&M, accounting and I were not friends.
Right.
So, but there were people in accounting who like it just made sense for them.
Yeah.
You figure out your passion. If you link up with that in college, like go attack it.
Yeah.
So
Totally.
you discovered that through figuring out, like, you're like, nothing else really made sense in school, but this makes sense.
Yeah, and I had to take biology, and that's how it was for me. I'm like, what the heck? This doesn't make any sense to me. I don't get this. I don't care.
This is all just
Because,
data.
like,
Yeah.
I'm just being my doctor, right? Like, what you guys are talking about?
My brother's in med school right now in his third year, so he's going to watch this and be like, "Come on, man, biology's amazing."
Yeah.
It is for some people.
Sure.
It is for some
Right.
people, but not for people that have their brains wired different ways.
Yeah.
It's like a knack, right? Like there's a certain things you have knacks for, and then you just develop the strength
Yes.
out of that knack.
And really,
Yeah.
throughout college, it was what can I get good grades in? I'm just going to do that, and so that's why I did accounting. And I actually didn't find tax until my senior year. So my senior year, I did VITA, which
Okay.
is a voluntary income tax program. We were helping low income military and low income families just file their tax returns,
Okay.
and it was awesome.
Yeah.
I was in sales with Comcast at the time.
Okay.
So people would sit down, I'd have my computer, I'd be talking to them, doing the whole sales deal and,
Yeah.
you know, making connections with them and helping them out. And the other, you know, nerds in the class were, you know, not as personable as I. They were
Right.
struggling
Sure.
with the class. And so
Well,
I
because
knew-
finance like draws a certain
it does.
personality, right?
It does. It very much does. And so I knew then that I was going to do that. And I then immediately got a job at Liberty Tax
Okay.
the following tax season.
Yeah.
And so I worked for them for a couple years
Okay.
until, like any good entrepreneur, I thought I could do it better.
Right.
There's a lot of things I didn't like about the way
Sure.
they operated. And so that's how I decided to start my own business in 2018.
Okay.
And
So
so,
kind of bookmark that. What gave you the idea specifically? Because you got to just open up a
Right.
storefront,
correct.
a Liberty Tax, you know, David Forney Tax, whatever. What gave you the specific
Right.
idea for the mobile tax business? And by the way, it's parked outside. We already got a photo of it.
Yes, we
Some
did.
video
Awesome.
for the
Awesome.
podcast. Great car.
Yeah.
I've loved it since the first day that I saw it. I think they're
Yeah.
cool cars anyway, and the wrap you did is just sick.
Yeah.
What gave you the idea for this particular business in this community?
You know, you would think initially it was, oh, that's so creative, but really it was a financing. So what I was doing is I was seeing Liberty Tax pay rent, pay trash, pay
Yeah,
utilities
because rent around
year
here is
round.
really expensive. Yeah.
They're paying it year round, but their income is variable, right? They're
Right.
getting income during tax season and they're getting income during extension season. So for me, it made sense. Well, if I just use my car,
You're like, that's not efficient.
yeah,
We
if
can't
I
do
use
that
my
way.
car, then I
Right.
drive my car more when it's busy,
Right.
and I drive it less when it's not busy.
Yeah.
And now my expenses are tracking with my income a little bit more. So it's
Totally.
more of an accounting decision
Yeah.
that I made that initially.
That makes a ton of sense.
Let's put an asterisk on that, or an exclamation point. It's the type of decision you want somebody that understands expenses and accounting and business to make for another business.
Right.
You made it for yourself.
Yeah.
And you made it before you took on the expense and the hassle of having a storefront. You went into it and said, how can I be really lean? I think a lot of businesses miss that chance to be kind of skinny in the middle. They make all this revenue, but it's so many expenses. Not a lot makes it down to the bottom line. You want a tax person, a accounting person that understands that and they're living it.
Totally.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I try to eliminate as many line items on the expenses, which is weird because people come to their tax guy.
That's right.
Yeah, absolutely. People come to their tax guy and they'll say, hey, I need more deductions. And so there's kind of this duality there where you're like, okay, yes, I understand you want to lower your tax, but you also want to increase profit. And those are kind of counterproductive. Sometimes you can't, spend all your money and then have a bunch of money left over at the end. So kind of working with the clients through that is, it's really a personal preference.
Sure.
Right. Because some people run their business in a way where they're okay with having a lot of expenses.
Right.
Other people want to maximize the profit. So we got to be flexible with how we approach
things. Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, my philosophy is I want as much profit through mobile tax as possible.
That makes sense.
Being skinny in the middle. And I let my clients know, I say, hey, if I come to you, I can deduct my miles. If you come to me, you can't deduct your miles.
That's true. Yeah,
so
that's a good point.
Let's just make it easy for you.
You got to get that deduction somewhere.
Yeah.
Well, and not only that, I think I remember the first time that you were really explaining your business, you were like, I'm not for everybody. You know what I mean? And you have a really kind of niche. But I think what you found is this like perfect trifecta or whatever of one, you're mobile, so you can go to people. So one, what that does for them is more convenient, right?
For sure.
Which is awesome. Like, I don't know any tax person that's ever said, hey, I'll come to you.
Nope.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So I think that's a huge advantage. And then two, what that does though is if somebody's there and they're like, shoot, I need to get you this, this, and this, you're right there. So they can get it to you at their house.
That was a big inefficiency when I was working on Liberty Tax.
Yeah.
If they were missing a document, they had to go home and get it. And then they had to book another appointment. And I'm like, this is so inefficient.
And then it's just like over and over.
Yeah. And I can't tell you how many times a client has missed a document and they've been able to just go to their office, print it out. Oh, let me see if I can find that real quick.
Totally.
And I'm like, wait. Don't print it out. Just upload it to the portal.
Right.
Please.
Let's save.
That movie, How to Train Your Dragon for Kids.
Right.
How to Train Your Client.
How to train your client.
No. Upload it to the portal. Process here.
Right.
That, and they get into a rhythm where it's familiar to them each year.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And some people still like printing it out, and that's fine. But when we talk about skinny for finances, we want skinny in our process too.
Yeah.
By adding a printer and adding paper and adding toner to that equation, we're just adding another area in the process that could break.
Right.
Totally. So if we can eliminate the printing of paper, like I don't take any of my clients' documents. We go there, we scan them, we upload them, and then that's it.
That's it. Yeah.
And if they can, I don't print out any tax documents. I'll upload it as a PDF. And instead of printing a 50-page document, they could just print out the pages that they need if they need to provide it to.
It's awesome.
For financing purposes or whatever it may be.
Totally.
And so,
yeah, I remember. Years ago, I'd bring a big stack to my tax person, and then I'd have to figure out time to go back and get it and answer all their questions and go back and forth. Yeah, not efficient, in any way, shape, or form.
The weirdest part too is when they were like, "What's all this Lego stuff?" And if you know Brian,
don't worry about it.
Don't worry about it.
Okay.
That's right. Exactly.
We were talking as we were, getting set up to film today, and you were talking about how this time of year is where you get all of these messages and texts and calls. It's like, hey, can I ask you a quick question? Can I get some advice? And I joked, right? And you heard me say it. I was like, as a coach, I get that all the time.
Right.
But it's also part of what helps people feel comfortable with me as a coach. So I lean into it. It's tough because your time's really in demand.
Yeah.
Right.
I asked Dave a couple of months ago, I said, what's your advice for people that are working with a tax professional, you or someone else? And he said, anything you can do to get it done early, upload things early, set your tax professional up for success.
Yeah.
He goes, first of all, it makes your life easier because secondly, it streamlines the process, which makes the enjoyment of the relationship on both directions a lot better.
Right.
I took that to heart. I had my business tax stuff uploaded, I think on February 1st. I had that filed 3 weeks ago and uploaded all of my personal tax stuff. And that's now done too. Just waiting for everything to get finished. I'll get a return. I'll pay a little money, whatever. But the process, I didn't realize what that meant to the preparer as much as it should mean to me.
Sure. And when I onboard new clients, some of them, I say, hey, we'll do an in-person document review. First year clients, I want to meet them in person, every one of them. And Some of them will say, okay, great, we're meeting in person. I'll have all my docs ready for you. So what happens in that scenario is I'll sit down, I pull out my scanner and I start scanning the documents. And in between documents, we might have a little bit of a conversation. And then at the very end, we'll have a small conversation about what they need to do.
Yeah.
Opposed to the new clients that upload everything beforehand, I can look at everything before I go out there. Then that half hour we spend is all productive.
Yeah.
Just, hey,
Just
what questions do you
connecting,
have?
fill in the gaps,
Yep.
things like that. Right?
And if you don't have any questions on this, how can we set you up for the future?
Yeah.
So I tell my clients all the time, if they're proactive in getting those documents uploaded,
Mhm.
then that half an hour interview is like pure money
It goes
for them.
quick. Yeah,
Yeah,
for
it's
sure.
like, hey, I need to help on my W-4. Hey, my kid's going to college. Can you talk to me a little bit about that?
Right.
Opposed to if I
You can
spend
focus on the meat of what's really,
exactly
the things that are
value
really on
is-
people's
yeah,
minds at that point.
yeah, I could provide a lot more value. In that
Totally.
case. There's
Okay.
not a lot of value in scanning documents. Let's be honest.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So talk to us a little bit about kind of what you say this all the time, like the person I'm really here for, is this. Like talk to us
Ideal
about
client.
the ideal client. Because I think that's
People watching.
100% really important for you to know, like what you should go to Dave for, and what the value you provide for those folks, as opposed to, do I need to go to somebody who's
Yeah.
can handle more complicated type tax returns and
Because I don't think you're doing
things like
taxes
that.
for Google.
No,
Right,
no,
right.
no.
You have
We
kind of an ideal client.
Yeah, we only do individual tax prep. And so instead of kind of going through my laundry list, that I have of, oh, they do this, I'm going to just tell a little story.
Sure.
So when I was early on, I showed up to a client's house and we'll call them the Joneses. And I show up on a Saturday morning and the wife answers the door and she goes, hey, and I say, hi, David with Mobile Tax. And she goes, oh, come on in. And I go inside and I hear the normal hustle and bustle of a Saturday morning where there's kids in the house running around and the husband was in the kitchen, making breakfast for everybody and like they were getting ready to go. Man, they were getting ready for their Saturday.
Yeah.
We sat down, I was there for about half an hour. We went through all their documents, I answered their questions and I said, okay, I'm gonna go home, I'll prep the return and then I'll let you know when it's done. And as I was leaving, she said, you made this so easy. My kids are upstairs getting ready for soccer. My husband's making breakfast and I just got our taxes done. And
that's a great story, honestly.
I knew
Like, that's amazing.
I knew then that's the type of clientele that I want to serve because there's so
Totally.
much valuable. Like how valuable is their time on the weekend?
Right.
Even if a lot of the clients I meet are very capable of doing their own
Sure.
taxes. Let's just be I'm capable of
We're all
changing my
capable of doing
own
a
oil,
lot of things,
you
right?
know,
That we don't
but-
want to do. Yeah.
but we don't want to do them,
Yeah.
right?
For sure.
And so by providing that
like
level of convenience,
About
for that-
reducing the friction, right? Of like getting it
Exactly.
done. Yeah. Something
So-
everybody has to do. But how can I help them get through it as quick and easy as
Yeah.
I
possible?
love that too about reducing the friction.
Yeah.
well,
I
yeah,
think
and
that's the most important thing to most people.
yeah, the friction is actually interesting when you're
Yeah.
talking about married filing joint. So when married filing joint, usually one person is very engaged in the tax prep and
Sure.
the other one doesn't.
Sure.
And so
And
what
that's the case for
happens-
me.
Yeah.
You know?
So what happens
Yeah.
is, and I'm just going to generalize, usually it's the wife from what I've noticed. So
That's engaged.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
maybe
engaged.
that's engaged in the process.
yeah, that's engaged in the process. Right?
Ah,
So
interesting.
she'll do the tax prep on like a TurboTax or something
Sure.
like that. Okay. And then the tax laws change
Right.
as they always do.
Yeah.
And so then it's different from
Then
last
they
year.
got to dig in and figure out, okay, now what do I have to do? How is this going to make a
Right.
difference?
And what happens? The husband says, "Well, why is it different than last year?" And the wife says, "Well,
I don't know.
I don't
That's
know.
it.
I guess I
That's
got to
what the
research."
software
it."
says.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what the software
Yeah,
says.
right.
And so now there's this friction, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And
With
so-
each other.
With each other.
Right.
So opposed to me going there
Right.
and doing it, and then when they ask why is it different than last year, it's them two teaming up on me.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
Hey, David, you got to explain to the both of us why this is different, which I can do.
Yeah.
For
for sure.
It eliminates that friction. Suddenly now they're working as a team
That's a good point.
opposed to being in conflict over this situation.
Right.
95% tax prep, 5% marriage therapy.
Yes. Exactly.
You probably don't charge enough, David. That's all I'm gonna
I was gonna
say.
say, that's worth the price right there. Well, what I love about what you say too is like you're a little bit more maybe than like an H&R Block or Liberty Tax or something like that, but you're not as expensive as a full-blown CPA or someone like that, right?
Correct.
So you kind of find that middle ground, which that's the value you really bring, and to be able to like, I'm realizing more and more the older we get, the older the kids get, the more stuff we have going on. It's just so worth paying someone.
Time.
The time is so worth it.
You can't get that resource.
You
back.
can't get it back. And like, I just think about how great that would be if someone just to come, here's all my stuff, you know what I mean? And then we can move on and then have confidence that we're good. And I don't have to think, like, put it in the software. Hopefully that was enough. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And maybe I missed something. Maybe I didn't. You actually have a human looking at it.
And
like,
I do a
giving you
review at
confidence
the
on
end.
that.
I'll send them a video. So I record a video at the end and I say, here's
That's
your
great.
last year, here's your current year. These are the line items that are different.
Yeah.
And that's why the tax is different from this year. A big one is the taper refund with Colorado this year is significantly different than it was last year. So when you have a side-by-side, you could easily point out where that is. It's a 3-minute video. And you know, you would think, hey, that makes things really easy. They could just watch the video and then they're done with it. Honestly, only about 40% of the clients watch the video. The rest of them are like, it's not even worth 3 minutes.
Doesn't even matter.
Accept it. It's good.
But that 3 minutes is there so they can watch it when they're ready. And then again, you don't have to do another appointment or another phone call. Yeah.
I want the information's there for me.
Yeah, exactly. 100%.
It's really interesting how COVID changed this model. Like I had this idea in 2018.
Right.
And then suddenly everybody's like, wait, you'll come to my house? Absolutely. And I was like, you know, 4 years ahead of my time.
Yeah, you are. Right.
You know? So the good thing was I had already had a lot of growing pains in that time. So
that makes sense.
So by the time that happened, I was able to implement some efficiencies in what I was doing.
That's awesome. I love it.
You know, I was kind of thinking, you know, we had questions just to guide the conversation, but I was looking at kind of the next two, you know, wanted to ask kind of about what drew you to the entrepreneurial path. I think that ties in with asking you also about that balance between being a small business owner and a family man, right? A husband and a dad. Talk a little bit about how those two intersected.
Yeah, I mean, think about the clientele that I said I like working for. That's me.
Right.
You know, that's me and my wife. We both had
I understand you.
I had a business on the side. I had 2 kids. They're in ballet. And so, which is they're there like 5 days a week, you know? So there's a lot going on. So when I thought about, it was somewhat selfish. I'm not going to lie. Like I needed a solution for more people like me.
Yeah.
You know, and that's kind of what started that going. Like, man, I would sit in that office here at Liberty Tax just thinking, there's got to be a better way. There's got to be a better way to do this for me.
Yeah.
And so that really is what kind of got that. And honestly, more so than that, I have a buddy that started his own construction cleaning business. And for years, he's been telling me, you got to start your own business. You got to start your own business. And so I think that was a big push as well.
Yeah.
You know, just being around him and seeing his journey and having him kind of like, yeah, you can do this, man.
Right.
Like anybody can do this. You just need the right people to kind of be.
And how has that impacted your family? I mean, since starting your own business and now growing to where you are now, like, I mean, tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah. So I would say that the biggest, and this is just one of many events that I've had. So when I quit my job at Comcast, my 2 girls were going to a tutor on Friday. So our kids are homeschooled.
Okay.
And so my wife and I aren't great at every subject, as I mentioned earlier, but we would bring her to a tutor for reading.
Sure.
And so I would bring my 2 kids. My oldest was 14 at the time. So I'd drop off my youngest daughter and I would take my oldest to the church parking lot. And we would just start driving around the parking lot.
Right.
And so she started learning how the blinker worked, learning how to adjust the seat, just all the functions of the car, learning how to park, you know?
Yeah.
And making sure she's using her. And it was fun, you know, for 1 hour every Friday, we would go and spend this time together.
Right.
And then a year goes by and now she's got her permit.
Yeah.
And so now we're doing all of the same stuff, but now we're doing it through town in Castle Rock.
Right.
You know, we're getting on the highway.
Yeah.
You know? And then
it's all that time you wouldn't have had otherwise.
Absolutely not. Yeah, because it was at 10 o'clock on a Friday.
Right.
You know, and it's like there's no way
stuck in a building. Right.
Or I would have been working 40 hours a week.
Sure.
And then the weekend comes along and honey, I'm tired.
Well, you're not working for yourself. You know, at that point you're working for somebody else. You come home after 40 hours. It's exhausting.
Yeah.
Because you haven't really invested in David or the Forney family.
Right.
You've invested in Liberty Tax. Nothing against Liberty Tax.
Yeah.
But I think, you know,
I was investing in Comcast and Liberty Tax, and I didn't have the capacity to spend the time with the family.
It's not sustainable.
We all have the gift of being girl dads. You've got boys mixed in there as well. But I think about that time that you say with your oldest, right?
Yeah.
That's that. I call them daddy-daughter dates.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be literally at night. It doesn't even have to be a meal. But daddy-daughter dates. You know, last week you posted a great photo. You and Abby were hiking the Castle Rock.
Yeah.
You know, I love my hiking buddy. when Jen does things with some girlfriends through our church, etc., like Emma and I do daddy-daughter dates, and sometimes we'll make dinner together. Maybe we'll go out and get like a burger or pizza. And my wife always says that our relationship as a dad and a daughter like explodes the few days after that because Emma just feels that connection.
For sure.
And there's something to be said for having that, even when you're out there grinding for yourself.
Yeah.
You got to make that time, and it's easier to do when you can say, "I'm blocking out my Fridays." I was so
Right.
excited when we talked about dates to record this, and Dave's like, "No, Fridays are when I take off," and I was like, "Sweet."
That's amazing.
But I know that's
Yeah.
not just for this; that's for the fact that that's how you live your life.
Yeah,
Right.
correct. Yeah. I mean, who wants to ruin a perfectly good Friday by talking about taxes? Nobody wants to do that. Nobody wants to do that. So
It's
Fridays work for me, you know, and honestly, when do my clients need me? They need me on the weekends.
right.
That's
Yeah.
when they're available and they
That's
need
right.
somebody to come by. So
True.
and honestly, you know, things are less crowded on Friday morning.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
so
right.
you know,
That's a good point.
it's nice
Yeah.
to not be constrained to this normal, you know, 9 to 5, Monday through Friday type of schedule. You know, it's something that we can kind of create and that's fluid and
Totally.
that can adapt as well as we grow the business or grow our relationship. So
Yeah.
it's,
I love that.
it's really the freedom is pretty amazing.
Yeah. That's awesome.
So that's just one example of how like making this change has helped. And I have a ton of stories just like that,
That's amazing.
where we're able to have, you know, better alone time together because I've decided to make this switch into entrepreneurialism.
I think what's really cool about just I mean, hearing from where you came from, right? Like you said, getting in a lot of trouble when you were younger.
Yeah.
No direction, like no focus, right?
Yeah.
And not any, because the truth is like, so nobody really walks through that with you unless you have parents who like, hey, let's talk about your strengths, let's talk about your interests, things like that. You know, parents do the best they can, but they don't think about that sometimes. Even
We
I
don't
have to
know.
remind myself
Yeah.
to help to think about that
That
with my
Susan does,
kids.
though, right?
She
Because
does.
Jen does that with
Yeah,
Emma, and
for
I'm
sure.
so
Yeah.
thankful. We both are out a lot based on what we do in our professional
Right.
careers. If we didn't have those rocks at home, man, Emma would be in a gang. I'm in a small gang, right? It's like
Right.
6-year-old thugs
Yeah.
around Castle.
Well, there's a
Rock,
few gangs around here. Yeah,
Correct,
I could see her being
raising
part of
heck
it.
over at
Right.
14-hour fitness
Exactly.
and stuff like that. Trying to break
But
through the old Berlin
I think
Brewing.
what's so cool about that is like that then you came to Castle Rock and like you found all of that, right? So like can you talk a little bit more about like how has this community in Castle Rock like really impacted you as a person? I think we've heard a lot of this, but also impacted your family outside of just your business, you know?
Well, so I met my wife at the outlet mall. We were both working in, you know, sister companies.
Okay.
So we would move back and forth sometimes. And she really was the change for me. She was really the thing that provided a lot more stability in my life. And it's weird when you get away from, you know, a bad crowd. Colorado Springs isn't that far away.
Right.
But even that shift just 40 minutes north
Sure.
made it to where, you know, I wasn't associating with the same people anymore.
Totally. Yeah.
And
You
now
had to start over in a sense. Yeah.
and now and Andrea and I both live in Founders Village. So when we were dating, my dad and her parents lived in Founders Village. We were only like,
so like right next to each other. Yeah.
And you know, we ended up getting a small apartment. And then after getting a small apartment, we ended up buying a condo. We got married, and then we had our daughter, and that made a big impact on me as an individual.
Sure.
Having that for, and people talk about it all the time, but for me,
it's real when it hits you.
Well, my wife was always a hustler.
Sure.
She worked 2 jobs, and you know, she'd be just fine if anything happened to me. However, my daughter now, you know, I couldn't imagine my wife taking care of both her and the daughter without me. And so I had to step up my game at that point. And then we had a little condo off of Crowfoot Valley. We ended up selling that condo and buying a house in Founders, like 3 blocks from her parents' house.
Oh, wow.
So now we have, you know, grandma and grandpa.
Yeah.
And so whenever the kids are like frustrated with us, like, I'm going to grandma's.
Go for it.
It's great because I remember
awesome.
when I was mad at my parents, I'd go to my friend's house, right? And we'd just get in trouble.
And then it would, wouldn't go well.
It would go well, right? And so now they've got another perspective, you know, a different perspective where they can go and have that support.
Yeah.
You know, so, and they're teenagers, like
Right.
one's 11, one's 16. So there's going to be that conflict out.
Oh yeah. 100%.
So having them just right down the street is great.
Right.
And my wife, I'm very, I mean, I may seem outgoing, but I'm pretty introverted.
Yeah.
Like my ideal day is like sitting on the couch playing video games
By yourself.
just nobody bothering me.
Right.
Just me and my dogs.
Which you'll be
and
doing
that's
after
it.
this. Huh?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
This is day off.
Like this is gonna tap them out and you're done.
Yeah, for sure. I'm gonna be done for the day. So, but my wife is excellent at building relationships. Like when we started homeschooling our kids, she started reaching out to people and say, "How do we do this? How do we? What program should we get?" You know. So she's very involved in things like that. And I think that we found that the community has been very accepting of these things. You know, it's like, hey, who in the community can help me with this?
Right.
And you have people more than willing to speak up on your behalf and say, hey, this is what I've experienced. Maybe you can use them. So I would say that's so the combination of just, you know, being away from the drama,
Right.
you know, and then having family in town.
Literally, Castle Rock changed your life.
Oh, absolutely.
Being here. I
I
mean,
mean, it was 180.
and you grew your roots here, and now it's like
for sure.
it's just such a cool story to go from where you were to this.
Yeah,
You know,
we
it's
hear
phenomenal.
we hear a lot of those stories.
Yeah.
Not on the podcast, just in
general.
friends that we make.
Right.
I mean, Castle Rock changed mine and my wife and our daughter's life because we were looking for community.
Yeah.
You find community in communities, but that doesn't mean every community has community. That's a lot of the word community. But in that,
Just say it like 3 more times
exactly,
just to make sure we
all
have
of a sudden, then Beetlejuice will appear.
people start popping up. There's community everywhere.
We're coming for you, Jason. Right?
That's right.
In all the best ways. In all the best ways. But I think that community that people search for, like, you don't realize how important that is to, even whether you're introverted or extroverted, it doesn't make a difference. You still want to be surrounded by great people in a great community.
Yeah.
What you're surrounded by becomes your reality.
Yeah.
What you focus on
sure.
becomes your reality in your life. Right? It's the foundation principle.
That's right.
And as I think about businesses in Castle Rock, the community of Castle Rock, some questions about what this community is. We love finding out from people. What's another business in Castle Rock that you really admire or really look up to?
I'm gonna have to think about that one for a little bit. I mean, for me, I know it's, and we can go on to a second question if you want, but
Okay.
there's a couple chains that I actually really like.
Talk to us. Yeah. What do you got?
I like Dutch Bros
Mhm.
and I like Chick-fil-A. And the reason why I like them is because when I go there, they always have a full staff of people that are eager to be helpful and happy.
Sure.
And so I get that these are large franchise, but the people that make those franchise are the people in this
the community. That's
The
right.
people here
In our
that
town.
work there.
Yeah.
Episode 4, and it's the second time we've had a conversation about Chick-fil-A
100%.
because it's just great, and the people they hire is great.
Yeah.
And I met the
People
guy.
they hire is great.
Yeah.
Was great
Was
and
great.
will be great.
Maybe he's great. What I'm saying is they're doing business.
Yes, they are.
They're doing lots of
Yes.
business.
That's right.
I toured Chick-fil-A and the back room and saw
really?
how they operated.
Oh, wow.
The process that they have is phenomenal. They're like freezers in the back. Everything moves this way.
Yep.
Nothing moves that way.
That makes your accounting brain really happy.
Oh yeah, I loved it. I loved it. The efficiency.
First in, first out. Everything has a system.
Oh yeah.
Dave, we see freezers, Dave sauce spreadsheet.
That's right.
Yeah. And it was amazing, and the people there were awesome. Everybody that was working there. You see other restaurants in town. I'm not going to name names, but they always have a help wanted sign. We're always hiring.
I work inside restaurants. They're mostly clusters behind the scenes. That's why I think the good ones are so exceptional because they've done a lot right that you never see to make what you experience fantastic.
Yeah,
Seamless, right? Where you just
absolutely.
That's hard business.
It
It's
is.
a hard.
I
business
can't
to
even
be on.
imagine. Yeah, for
People
sure.
ask me for years when I open a restaurant. I'm like, because I don't want to be unemployed.
Right.
Like
Right.
it's a really tough business
It's
to be
tough.
successful in.
Totally. Yeah.
I think Castle Rock, I believe this is a correct statistic that we are in our community because we have the 2 Chick-fil-A's.
Yep.
It's if not the only, it's one of the only franchisees that owns multiple because they don't allow you to do that in the same market. Something about the geography where we are, the uniqueness of this community. I believe the same owner owns both.
He does.
And so I don't know them, but I'm sure we know someone that does. Would be a great, what a great
That would
person
be
to have
cool.
on there.
Yeah.
Is it a small business? No, but it's locally owned and operated.
Right.
And I'd love to find out more behind the scenes.
That would be
I'm a
awesome.
big Chick-fil-A fan.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
So
Big Chick-fil-A fan.
Me too.
Anybody that's just another one-off business where you find that you spend, even though you're skinny,
Or organization, business organization,
Maybe a volunteer
nonprofit.
thing.
Yeah.
Who else gets you excited in Castle Rock that's from here?
Um, I really like, and I don't know his name. Um, I just recently had a rubber ducky non-alcoholic margarita,
Oh.
and the individual that
I've seen
that
those.
came up
Isn't
with
it?
that-
Brandon has those at his Coast to Coast.
So
Yeah.
Kent has them at Coast to Coast, and they're only at a couple different places. But I believe he's a Castle Rock guy that created this, and they're phenomenal. So
Really?
this time of year,
Yeah.
I don't drink. I don't, I've got to be on my game.
Yeah.
Like the idea of even having a slight hangover in the morning,
Right.
is,
No, we don't
is
want that.
abysmal to me.
Yeah.
So, I love that he came up with this product. And I've had canned margaritas before, and
Oh, yeah.
they gave me indigestion. They're just not good.
Right.
Or fake stuff.
These
like
things
just
are
syrups and things.
phenomenal,
Interesting.
and to
Huh.
see that he's producing these on a mass level,
Yeah.
is really cool because
That's awesome.
I think that at a small town, and this is why I'm a bit hesitant because I feel like a lot of small business in town they have great people working for them, but they have a limited kind of idea of what growth is for them.
Sure.
They tend to stay small,
Right.
and this guy is just like blowing up.
Yeah.
So I like companies that think, well, Castle Rock's just where we're starting.
Right.
We're going all across.
We're going all over.
Yeah,
Yeah. It's awesome.
We're going all over.
But there's a lot of
across the
support
United
that comes
States.
here so that they can grow. Because I know what you're talking about. I don't know the guy either, but I've seen him around and I've seen it on Facebook and other people helping support him.
Yeah.
So it's really cool.
Hopefully, a viewer that's watching this, if you know who it is, just post in the comments section, whether
Yeah,
it's
that's a
our
good
YouTube
idea.
channel, anywhere in our socials,
Totally.
who it is. We'd love to, first of all, give him credit because Dave's obviously, speaking very highly of him. I'm assuming
Right.
it could be a her, could be a they, right?
Yep.
Two people, a couple. But also, we would love to maybe connect with him and have him as a guest on the podcast.
That'd be
Because
awesome.
to your point, not every small business in Castle Rock has to stay small.
Right.
Some of them explode and get big, and we'd love to just help make that trajectory something where there's more presence for them, especially if the products.
100%.
I haven't tasted it, but everyone I know that has, Brandon obviously has it there. Sheldon Bain, a buddy of ours, has talked about it. Now it's something that I probably need to get on the bandwagon for.
Totally.
So many times where I'm like, man, I want something like that
Right.
without having
Without the alcohol in it.
booze.
Yeah.
I've really like, I think it's called Athletic Beer Company. They make the non-alcoholic beer, the best non-alcoholic IPA I've ever had. Does it taste like, Juicy Bits from Weldworks?
Okay.
No.
Right.
But it's a really, really flavorful, satisfying beer
Yeah.
that is refreshing. And then I can go about and do some.
And not worry about. Yeah. Right.
Whatever.
Right.
Whatever it is I have to do.
And my wife doesn't drink at all, and so I will when
She's
it's
better
not
person than you.
not taxable. There's no doubt about that.
We already established that.
Yeah.
All of us.
Right.
We all married up.
But it's cool to be able to just go grab a 4-pack and then come home, and her and I can have a couple of drinks.
Nice.
Totally.
So it's a great alternative, great product, and so I'm
awesome.
a big fan. Yeah.
So what do you love? So we talked about the other businesses you admire, but what do you love about living in Castle Rock? Like, what do you like to go do in Castle Rock, or hangouts, things you could do with the kids, things like that?
Yeah, I think I've been to just about every coffee shop in town.
Okay.
So
Nice.
that's the first
What's
thing.
your favorite?
That makes three of us.
My wife asked me this the other day. I think that there's different factors, right? Like who has the best tasting coffee versus I like Crowfoot. I like going into Crowfoot.
Oh yeah.
There's something about just the way the decor within there that I enjoy.
Is it fair to say that I kind of feel like Crowfoot is like a Cheers?
Yes.
Because
It's
I
kind of like a
go in there,
small
it's kind of
town.
like everybody knows everybody that goes in there.
Yeah.
It's so cool.
It is very cool.
Yeah.
Yep.
I like them.
Awesome. I love it.
And then also, as far as the I really like Coff 33 over here, or Coffee.
I call it Coff 33.
We all call
Everybody asks that. Though.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
officially Coff 33. They haven't asked our opinion. But
Right.
we decided.
That's what we decided.
It's so close to everything that I go to, so I do
Easy to
our,
meet there.
our B9 meetings at the library, so it's right next to obviously Craft is just right across the street from it. So
Right.
and then the service is pretty good there.
Oh yeah,
so
for sure.
Coffee's
No, they're
good.
great.
I've run into you before we did this.
A million
I run
times.
all the time.
Yeah.
I've actually
I run into
into
people
Dave a
all the
couple of
time
times.
there.
You know me, I'm really shy. So he was sitting down with a lady. Obviously, it was sometime in the fall, and he was, talking about what he did.
Right.
Very smart person, by the way, because I think that they were actually getting ahead of the curve in identifying a tax professional. And I just walked right up and I said, "Let me interrupt you real quick." I said, you are talking to the right person if this is a meeting about tax. And Dave just like smiles and kind of laughs.
Yeah.
And I was like, you're meeting with the right person.
Right.
Not only is he good at what he does, I think
Yeah.
he's just a really great human being. That's one of my favorite parts about this community is running into friends and business owners,
Definitely.
coffee shops, grocery stores, wherever
Grocery
you happen to
stores.
be. I
Right.
drove down the street yesterday. I'd finished up. Actually, I was doing a meeting at Crowfoot,
Yeah.
and I was heading out. I was going towards the house, and I stopped at a light, and I saw our friend Joshua Dutton. He was coming out
Yeah.
of like an office. I think he was doing some sort of paperwork, and he came out, and I could just roll the window down on my Jeep, honk my horn, and I go, "Afternoon, handsome."
Yeah.
You can't do that in Denver.
No, no. Right. Exactly.
Maybe not. But here in Castle Rock, if you see
Oh,
friends
yeah.
wherever you go, and
Right.
that makes my heart really happy.
Yeah.
100%.
That's what I love about having the wrap
Me
on the
too.
car. I'll be driving around and hear
Yes.
beep beep.
I bet you do.
I'm going to shoe polish Brian's car so people know it's him.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go. Very nice.
Yeah. That was great.
Yay, thanks, Chris.
Yay.
Good friend move.
Yeah.
Dave, we always like to ask like kind of the secret, something about you that most people wouldn't know,
Right.
preferably something that wouldn't make people not want to work with you.
Okay.
Maybe a secret, something about you that most folks don't know that'll just help people get to know you a little bit more intimately.
Hidden talent, hobby,
Yeah.
something
Ooh,
like
yeah.
that. Yeah. Or interest
Um,
of yours.
So I would say that in my 20s, mid 20s, I got into Muay Thai, and I did that for like a decade.
Okay.
So I
It's like
love it.
regular tie, bow tie. What's a Muay
A
Thai?
Muay Thai.
It's
is-
a Mai Tai.
It's like a drink, but very violent. So
Instead
like
of
an angry
drinking it, you
margarita.
throw it at each
Yeah.
other.
Spicy.
Yeah. So Muay Thai is a form of kickboxing, and so I boxed and I was in tournaments and
Oh, wow.
yeah.
Did
so
you win any?
yeah. Oh yeah.
Really? Oh,
Yeah.
that's awesome.
Yeah. And
Very cool.
I fought some people that moved on to be very good at what
Really?
they did.
Oh, cool.
I fought them and beat them.
Nice.
And but you know, there comes a point when you're into a combat sport like that, and you're making the decision, do I want to have brain damage or be an accountant?
Right.
You know, and I
Do
felt
I
like
want
the
to
accountant had a
hurt the
little-
rest of my life or not?
Yeah. Well, the reality is pretty much any sport,
Mhm.
and of course, this is my accounting brain kicking in. Any sport, even if you're the very best,
Yep.
there's you're gonna have off days.
100%.
You know,
Yeah.
and in those off days in these violent sports, and in all honesty, only like the top 1% of people that get into this are extremely successful
Sure.
and make really good money doing it. And so, even though I absolutely loved it, I made the decision that, you know, it's either go all in or
Right.
move on to something else. So
Yeah.
after a decade of, you know, kickboxing and being really into it, I decided to move on and just
Nice.
be an accountant.
That's
instead.
awesome.
Yeah,
Very
so
cool.
very polar opposites.
I love it.
Of, you know what I'm doing. So
Right.
go from, you know, smashing faces to doing
To
taxes.
smashing taxes.
Yeah, yeah.
I have to share this. So the 80s are probably my favorite decade. Love the music. My wife
Yeah.
doesn't, but love the music, love the movies, really iconic stuff. When you said that, I got a smile on my face because I was imagining John Cusack in Say Anything
Oh,
when
yeah.
he's meeting the dad. And I don't know if you've seen that movie.
I
but
have
it's like,
not.
oh, it's fantastic. And I think we're going to throw a screenshot up from the movie so people will know what it is. But there's a whole scene in there where he's meeting her father and he's put a tie on for the first time.
Uh-huh.
And he's explaining how he's like, sir, you know, my vision for the future is kickboxing. It's sport of the future. And he talks about not wanting to buy or sell anything processed. This whole line and spiel, whoever wrote it was brilliant.
Uh,
But he's like, sir, I'm going to be a kickboxer. And that's his pitch to this young woman's dad about what his future is. And you can tell it's not landing. And then he
Sure.
finally is like, basically, sure, what I'm saying is, I'm in love with your daughter and I want to spend all my time with her. That connected.
Yeah.
But I was imagining
Yeah.
Dave, like, you know, businessman during the day, like, just whatever sound you make in Muay Thai, like, I'm going to say going Kung Fu on everybody. I don't know if that's
Right.
PC, but going Muay Thai on people. But you do at some point, you have to decide what's that? Is that
Yeah.
sport really
Right.
supporting it and giving you a lifestyle that allows you to be successful at your business?
right.
Because nobody wants someone to do their taxes that is like, I can't remember things. What's your name? Like, he's a
Yeah.
be connected to that business piece.
Right. Totally.
All right, we're going to get into a speed round of questions that we always do at the end.
Yep.
I feel like we're on hot ones.
We are.
Speed round of questions, no wings. And we're going to go through, and these are short form answers. They can be yes, no, or just picking a topic. So, favorite place to vacation?
Mexico.
Mexico.
Nice.
Raza, baby.
All inclusives?
No,
No.
no, I don't like all inclusives. I
Okay.
really like going to some smaller towns
Okay.
and just experiencing the culture. And
I got you.
Love that.
Nice.
I love that.
Very cool.
Skier, snowboarder, or hot cocoa in the lodge?
Hot cocoa in the lodge.
There we go.
For sure.
There we go.
And only if I could stay the night there because I hate traffic.
Yes.
I hate the traffic
Like,
going
it's
up.
not
Give me right here, buddy.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I-70s for the birds.
That's hilarious.
man.
Okay, coffee, tea, or another way to kickstart your day.
I like coffee, but I'm gonna say cold shower. Another way to start the day.
Oh, there you go. You just drink a cold shower.
Yes. Turn it as cold as you can. You get in there, and I guarantee you'll be awake.
You do that every morning?
I was doing it more, but now my morning routine's kind of messed up.
Okay.
But yeah, every morning
I've tried
wake
it
yourself up.
and I can't do it, so I just stopped doing it.
You can.
Yeah. I could. I don't want to.
You don't want to?
I've been on the road the last 2 weeks, and I
Yeah.
got it because where it was warm.
Uh-huh.
But I normally do it every morning.
Do
I
you
end my
really?
shower with minute and cold.
Oh, geez.
It is incredible. It takes about 2 or 3 days to get over it, buddy. But
Yeah.
we're not going to do it together. But I'm going to encourage you to do that solo.
Okay.
This is not part of our agreed partnership.
I take a picture and send it to you to show that I've done
As
it.
long as it's like chest up, we're good, bro. Have season take the picture.
Yeah.
Beer, wine, cocktail, or mocktail. You kind of talked about during tax season not drinking, but at a tax season, what do you prefer?
A beer.
A beer.
Yes.
Nice cold beer. Do you have
Yeah.
a favorite either brewery, whether it's local or not?
I really like Fat Tire, like Breckenridge Brewery. So the like the amber ales. So either an Avalanche or a Fat Tire is usually what I'm gonna go with.
Nice.
Yeah.
I like
Love
that.
it, man.
Okay. Cats, dogs. I'm going to add birds or rodents.
Gross.
What's it?
Which one's your favorite?
I have a dog. My wife's allergic to cats, so apparently I don't like cats anymore.
Yeah.
That's how it goes.
That's okay.
So
At some point in your other life, you did like cats.
I like cats.
Yeah?
I think that they're weird and they're quirky.
They are weird.
independent, and I like when they like bring you a bird because they think that's what you wanted. Like, okay, cool.
Thank you for that grossness.
Our cat Betty got into the garage. We were moving something heavy into the house yesterday, and she got into the garage with the garage doors open yesterday. And I found her out there a few minutes afterwards, and she gave me the look that was like, "Where the heck am I?" Picked her up. She freaked out.
She's
Put her back in
terrified.
the house, and then she was like, "Oh, everything is good." I don't think she's an outdoor cat,
Okay.
which makes me very happy.
That is good.
Makes me very
Yes.
happy.
Yeah.
But you only find out
Those
sometimes
outdoor
with
cats get
accident.
into a lot of trouble.
Oh my gosh, they do. By the way, like those kids from the wrong side of the tracks.
Yeah, that's right.
Exactly.
Exactly. Same
Right?
thing.
This is a segment where you, as we wrap things up, you get to ask Brian and I each a question. You can ask us anything. It can be the same question, it can be different, but something that you want to know about us.
All right. So both of you guys have a lot of things going on.
Yep.
Okay. So Chris, I'm going to start with you.
Please.
So I know that you've done some coaching with me on presentations,
Yes,
which
sir.
was phenomenal. And I just am curious, what is your vision long term, like 10 years down the road for the business that you're doing, or do you have a vision?
I do. It's funny. I was actually writing down some specific goals because I have goals in my head. And I heard something the other day that just said, if you haven't written them down, they don't really exist.
Yeah.
And that's more of a mindset
Right.
than not. I've stayed very
It's
focused.
not true necessarily, but
Correct.
it helps you solidify it.
Exactly. So,
Yeah.
my wife and I, we pick a word of the year every year. But sometimes it sticks, sometimes it doesn't. We've been really intentional. Our word of the year is balance. So we were talking about goals for the business and for me. And Jen works with me in part of the business. The big thing that I really want to grow over the next several years is I want to do a lot more keynote speaking.
Cool.
I rolled out a new program that I did for a first-time talk that I did on Monday to a group up in Connecticut. And it was, you and I haven't even talked about this yet.
Yeah.
It was extremely well received. I was getting texts from my client afterwards. They're like, people are coming up and just losing their mind over this.
That's awesome.
It's called Polishing Diamonds, and it's all about how do you present yourself? How do you deliver and craft a message? And, I've worked with some really talented people for a number of years that have helped me learn that. This is my take and my voice and how I help people with their presentations. And all of the nerves that are normally there as I walked out on stage in front of 125 people vanished.
You just felt
And I had a
comfortable.
lot of fun.
That's awesome.
I had a lot of fun out there. So
That's super
that's a
cool.
part of my business I want to grow. So my goal this year is to do 12 keynotes.
Awesome.
Through April, I have 4 scheduled this year. So I'm tracking well.
Nice.
But you never know where that next request is going to come. It doesn't have to be for Google. But I
Right.
think the excitement of being able to go talk to a big company where people are terrified.
Sure.
I covered a top 10 list of people's fears. And in that is things like dogs. They're so cute and cuddly. Enclosed spaces, spiders, snakes, whatever. But the number one fear people have is public speaking.
Yeah.
And it's my mission to help people feel less afraid and feel more confident in that. And it's like the old Carnegie Hall thing. How do you get in? Practice, practice, practice.
Sure.
So coaching people in that, but also delivering messages like that to large groups really is
That's cool.
it's a
Yeah,
big
I love
part of
that.
what I want to spend a lot of my future doing.
Yeah. Good. That's amazing.
You can tell you have a passion. I mean, the 1 hour I spent with you produced volumes. Like there was so much benefit in that 1 hour.
Thank you.
I went and I spoke at that conference, a tax conference, and they loved it. You know, they thought I killed it, and a lot of that had to do with very basic tips that you're able to provide with me.
Yeah.
So
I appreciate that.
That's
I'm
awesome.
glad that vision, that's the vision for what you're doing.
It made me so excited when I texted you and you wrote back and you're like, knocked it out of the park.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. Like
Yeah.
your confidence
Right.
is probably even a little bit subdued to what the audience experienced because we're always our own worst critic.
Sure.
And I knew it had to be exceptional because
Yeah.
your review of yourself was like, wow. So
Yeah.
I'm glad I got to be a part of that story.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah. Cool.
I love it.
So, what type of vehicle are you going to wrap? No, honestly, what I want to.
Well, I have a Kia Sorento that got hit by a blown out tire on I-25, so the front is
Nice.
all like messed up.
Nice. So
Yeah,
just
so we're just gonna wrap on it and call it good. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Justin Ansel at Guinness Garage, like I can't buff that out.
Yeah, it's pretty much.
What this is going to be kind of other side, not so much profession like it was
Yeah.
for you, but more kind of something that you have as a hobby, which I am very into, which is Lego.
Lego, yeah, for
I
sure.
just want to know a little bit about like how did you initially get into that, and what is it that you love about it? Because my daughter and I,
yeah,
we enjoy getting a kit and putting it together, and
totally.
so it's just a great way to bond.
Right.
So I'm just curious about what your perspective is on that.
Oh yeah. Okay. So I'll try to keep it as short as I can. So I think what's great about Lego, not just the brand, but what the toy does for people. You know what I mean? Like one, the sets used to be super simple. They've gotten a little bit more complicated, intricate, things like that. But I think what's really neat about Lego, there's so many things. What got me into it was I was like, it's one of those things. Our pastor says this a lot. He goes, if you work with your mind all week, you rest with your hands.
Mm.
And if you work with your hands, you rest with your mind. So I'm always using my mind or on the phone, computer, whatever, things like that. So having something physical to do and build that's easy. They don't have to go to like try to figure out how. I would love to do woodworking, but that's a whole lot more you have to do, right? To have a physical thing that you can do and build and put together, you can have a sense of accomplishment eventually, which is really cool. You can do it with your kids, which I love, and it's outside of a puzzle. Like you do a puzzle, they can be fun, but then it's all I have is a picture left over. Let's put it all back in the box, right? Lego's so cool because you can build it and then use it, right?
Yeah.
And then play with it. And so like it's all the way from like
It also displays really
especially in our digital, it displays well, especially in our digital world.
right.
Like it just gets us out of all of that, and it's something we can do that's tactile and fun, and yeah, and then we can play with it, and then we can take it apart, and then you build whatever the heck you want with it. You know what I mean? So I like the creativity outside of it. My son, literally right now, Micah has got a building that he's been this fort base lookout tower thing that's literally from our big tubs of Legos that we have. It's probably about this tall, this big. You know what I mean? He just has spent hours and hours down there in the basement putting these things together. So I think what's great about Lego too is like, I don't know if you guys know this, the very first Lego brick that was made, you can still use with today's Lego bricks.
Oh yeah.
It's phenomenal.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And they last forever. So Lego's done us all a huge favor that we can keep these bricks. They very rarely break, you know what I mean, or go bad or expire or anything like that. Like it's just a solid all around toy, but I think it bridges all the gaps of generations, of ages, genders. I mean, everything, right? Like who doesn't love to just build a little bit?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And anybody can get into it. So I think that's what I really love about it. And the possibilities with it are just endless.
Yeah.
So it's just it's a cool way to connect with others.
I
And
like it.
adults,
Connect with others.
yeah, and adults like
That's fun.
I don't know, like it brings you back to your childhood. I remember my very
Right.
first Lego set was a train. And I mean, I remember every day after school and after church coming home and just that's all I wanted to do is build that. And I still have that train today, and my kids are now playing with it. I mean, it's just I don't know, just all this nostalgia that goes with it that I love. I don't know. I could go on forever. I feel about it, but it is. That's why I started a Lego business, to help feed my addiction to buying new sets and building them and continuing it.
I talk to business owners,
Yeah.
and I'll ask them, "So what do you do? What do you do for fun?" And so many of them just don't have hobbies.
Yeah.
No. Yeah.
It's like, oh, I work.
Right.
I work and I hang out and I
And
take
then I
care
watch
of my family.
TV and yeah.
And so I think it's great to have a hobby where you're actually working with your hands and doing something
Right.
beyond what a screen is
100%.
feeding to you.
Yeah. 100%. Yep. It just kind of gets you out of all that, which I
Oh.
love.
I think adults and business people too, sometimes they forget to play.
They forget
Yeah.
to
They forget
You're
to
absolutely right.
Right.
first time I ever went over to Brian's house, in his office, you talked about display. Like he has these incredible Legos on display.
I should count how many I have. Yeah. It surrounds me.
It's like all encompassing. And I think to myself, as you're in that office doing things that are, by the way, serious,
Right.
and they're making a difference in people's lives as a realtor. But like you're also surrounded by art that you made and things that bring you a lot of joy. And
Right.
it's like that's what our surroundings should bring us, is a lot of joy in that. So
Totally.
it made me really smile when I saw that.
Yeah. Yeah.
When you
It was fun.
mentioned play, that made me think of a Castle Rock business that I really like,
Yeah.
which is Fulcrum Jiu-Jitsu.
Oh,
It's guys that I like martial arts. I don't like getting kicked anymore, but that's a place where you can go and you can experience a martial art that's far less impact than a sport like Muay Thai. And they really have created an awesome community, and they just play.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, let's just have fun,
Right.
So that's a business that I am just a huge fan of, what they've created there. And I think there's a lot of jiu-jitsu gyms around town that provide that. But
For sure.
I think it's a great outlet for older guys that are looking to do something that is
Totally.
fun and
Physical. Like this is
Yeah.
so much. I mean, a lot of guys have physical jobs, but I don't know. And even just the physical jobs, like there's mundaneness in all of that, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if it's not, if it is or isn't. And to get outside of that and just do something that's like, yeah, I think just as a release from all that and get your focus off of it. And I think it's just healthy.
for
sure.
It's healthy.
Yeah.
And so I think wish I would have thought of that, or you should have given me these questions in advance. I would have definitely answered them a lot better.
that's okay.
No,
That's
no,
okay.
you
We're
did
gonna
great.
get
It
together
was
with a
awesome.
great story.
Yeah,
David, it's been so nice
Yeah.
just getting a chance to sit down. We both
Absolutely.
are really looking forward to this because, again,
for sure.
there's already a friendship there. Not just friendship, but also mutual respect as
Absolutely.
people, as business people.
Mhm.
And it's just been so exciting to hear more of your story and in an engaging format like this. Really enjoyed the time.
Totally.
Cool.
Yeah,
I
you
appreciate
are officially a Castle Rock insider now that you've been
There
on the
you go.
Inside Castle Rock podcast.
it. Love it.
So,
Love it. I'll put it on
yeah.
my business card.
Yeah, absolutely. We should have a certified
We absolutely
Castle Rock
we're gonna
insider.
come up with that as well.
Love it.
For sure.
We're gonna come up with
So
that.
thank you so much, though. This is
You're
great. We really appreciate it. And if you enjoyed this episode, please give us a like, subscribe. Always let us know in the comments if there's any other places or people you would love for us to do a podcast with. We'd want to know because we don't know everybody, but we're going to at one point. So
One of our networking groups, Brian was at the other day. I was traveling for business, and we had two of the fellows in Connecting Over Coffee come up and say, "Hey, how can I get on your podcast?" We're having those conversations right now.
Yeah.
We've got our show basically booked through what's going to come out in July with episode 6. But we have about another 20 people and businesses on that list. We're excited to see what that turns into. We're excited for you watching this. And most excitedly, we're excited for the people that we don't even know that are going to be on the show yet. So thanks for
Definitely.
spending time with us today.
Yep. All right. We'll see you guys next time.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
That brings us to the end of another episode and a great conversation.
We hope you enjoyed getting to learn more about our community and the people of our town.
If you want to become a Castle Rock insider, all you have to do is like that video that you just watched and go ahead and subscribe to our YouTube channel.
We're also on all the social media channels. You can find us there or wherever you listen to podcasts.
Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next time inside Castle Rock.